Greetings. Welcome to the To Be the Very Best Gamer podcast, the podcast that keeps gamers entertained and informed on the world of video games. I'm your host, JD Gamer, and it is, in fact, our first ever episode. In today's episode, we will chat about the recent Game Awards 2025, the one hosted by Jeff Keighley, all the winners, and then the impact of the 2025 Game of the Year on the gaming industry going forward. I'll start by specifying that I am referring to the Game Awards, the award show hosted by Jeff Keighley that's been around since 2014 that occurs every December. I'm aware that there are plenty other Game Awards shows out there that recognize video games, but this is the one that I am the most familiar with and the one I get most excited about each year. So let's start by going over the winners from the Game Awards 2025. Starting with the categories I honestly care the least about: the esports and content creator awards. So for best esports team, that was Team Vitality. Best esports athlete, Chovy. Best esports game, Counter Strike 2. Content creator of the year, um, Moist Critical. I actually like Moist Critical, so um, I'm so happy he got that one. So besides that award, a few others: most anticipated game, Grand Theft Auto 6. And as long as they don't delay it again, we'll hopefully be getting it at the end of this year. And that will definitely be game of the year, like definitely, for 2026. Best adaptation, The Last of Us Season 2. I guess it's cool. Why Sonic 3 wasn't on the list of nominees is still strange. It probably would have won this if it was there. Best community support, Baldur's Gate 3. I have a bone to pick with that one. Um, that game specifically. Best ongoing game, No Man's Sky. Okay, and then innovation and accessibility, Doom: The Dark Ages. Now, I'm all for everyone being able to play any game that they want, but it's one of the, I consider one of the not as important awards. So now that we've gone through those, let's go ahead and get through the category awards. So, best multiplayer game was Arc Raiders. Best sports racing game was Mario Kart World. Honestly, I probably would have given it to Sonic, the Sonic racing game, just because Mario Kart World just wasn't hitting it um, this year. Best sim strategy, Final Fantasy Tactics. Best family game, Donkey Kong Bonanza. Donkey Kong Bonanza is one of my favorite games from 2025, and I'll definitely share more about that with you guys in a future episode. Best fighting game, Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves. Best RPG, Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Best action adventure, Hollow Knight Silksong. Now that's a game that we had been waiting forever for, and I am so happy it came out 2025, and it is amazing. Best action game, Hades 2. Best VR AR game, The Midnight Walk. Best mobile game, um, has a name that I honestly cannot even pronounce, but hey, it's a mobile game. Best debut indie game, Expedition 33, and Best Independent Game, Expedition 33. And now onto the specific aspect Game Awards. This is whenever you hear people talk about a Game Awards sweeping, they're usually talking about these categories, since these are more about the different aspects of a particular game rather than like a category. So, um, games for impact went to South of Midnight. Best performance went to Jennifer English from Expedition 33. Best audio design went to Battlefield 6. Best score in music went to Lorian Testard from Expedition 33. Best art direction, Expedition 33. Best narrative, Expedition 33. And best game direction, Expedition 33. So I hope you guys noticed something before we move on to the game of the year section. Now, on to the actual game of the year, one of the most important awards in all of video gaming. This award recognizes not just the best rated game, but the most influential and impactful game of the respectful year. As I mentioned before, the Game Awards has been happening since 2014 and has had an amazing list of Game Award winners. I'll quickly go through some of the past winners. 2014's winner was Dragon Age Inquisition. 2015 was The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. 2016 was Overwatch, which basically started the genre in itself, so it's definitely deserved. 2017 was Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, basically revolutionized what an open world game could really be. 2018 was God of War. 2019 was Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Probably the most conflicting winner was The Last of Us Part 2 in 2020. 2021 was It Takes Two. 2022 was Elden Ring. Um, that game kind of makes me, on a side tangent, that game kind of makes me upset. Don't get me wrong, it was definitely deserving of Game of the Year, but it just it was one of those games that just kind of swept the field, and a game I really love just kind of fell in the shadows. But again, that's a discussion for a future episode. 2023's winner was Baldur's Gate 3. Personally, I was hoping it would have went to Breath of the Wild. I'm sorry, Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, but I kind of understand why I went to Baldur's Gate. And then last year's winner was my pick for what would be Game of the Year, and that was Astrobot, which in a way had a very interesting impact and message to the gaming industry, just like um, this 2025's winner was. So, who were the nominees for the Game of the Year for 2025? Well, the nominees were Exposition 33, Death Stranding 2, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Hades 2, Hollow Knight Silk Song, and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And all of those were pretty good games, strong contenders. Death Stranding 2 was honestly a lot better than Death Stranding 1. I feel Donkey Kong Bonanza, as I mentioned before, probably my favorite Nintendo game of this year. And as you've probably been hearing, Expedition 33 just made an impact as soon as it basically launched. And then Silk Song, personally, I feel like the game is good, but I feel like it was definitely kind of the hype and waiting that definitely helped it. But the winner of 2025 Game of the Year was Expedition 33, which did not surprise a lot of people. And as someone who's only played a bit of it, I've definitely agree that it's one was definitely deserved, especially looking at the entire gaming industry in the last few years and 2025. And I don't just think that Expedition 33's win was just deserved, but I do feel that kind of like Astrobot's win last year, excuse me, in 2024, that Expedition's win in 2025 should be a wake up call for the industry as a whole. So, what makes Expedition 33 so worthy of being the 2025 Game of the Year? That's what we'll be discussing in this segment. Expedition 33 is a turn-based fantasy role-playing game about volunteers of Expedition 33 who set off on an impossible mission to destroy the Patriots, a being causing the yearly gomage, which erases those at or above an ever-decreasing age. While I am familiar with the premise of Expedition 33, I have yet to complete the game, so I am no expert on the subject. But I know someone who is. Today's guest is a lifelong video gamer who has played a variety of games and platinumed many of them, including Expedition 33. Please give a warm welcome to Elliott.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, awesome. So we'll go ahead and start with the questions. First, what is your overall experience in gaming? What games have you played? And what games are your favorites?
Overall experience in gaming. So, like you said, I've been playing my whole life. Um, I feel like early childhood, my experience in gaming would definitely be described with like platformers. Favorite being Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot has been probably one of my favorite things in my entire life and still is. So, I'll always forever love that series. Things like Spyro, Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, all great things, but like within that space. Eventually, as I grew older, it turned into fighting games. So fighting games is kind of like my main genre of video game that I prefer. Uh, and yeah, I guess that's pretty much like the big thing. I started uh, on an NES, like well past my time when it came out, but on a Nintendo Entertainment Systems when I played my very first video games, like Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, Double Dragon, all great games. And then eventually got to a PS1, got a PS2, and then it got kind of just grew from there. And then, you know,
Cool. So fighting games. So what is your favorite fighting game?
so my favorite fighting game is Tekken. The entire Tekken series is amazing. Been my favorite. It wasn't my first favorite. My very first favorite was Street Fighter 2. And Street Fighter, if you're in the fighting game community, you know Street Fighter 2 is like the iconic fighting game. That was my first favorite fighting game, and then it switched to Tekken, Tekken 5 being my favorite of them all. But, Tekken is very special to me.
Okay, so all right, so I'm hearing platformers like Crash and fighting games like Tekken. So what inspired you to play an RPG like Expedition 33?
So it's kind of like a thing of when I got older, I started to expand my horizons because I feel like I was almost limiting myself with fighting games and platformers, and RPGs have definitely been appealing to me. That and like open world games, I started a lot with Breath of the Wild, and it was a great experience. Kind of opened me up, and then I switched to the RPG world. I got into like The Witcher 3, Skyrim, all of these things, Oblivion, Elder Scrolls. Um, and then naturally, Expedition was just the hot new thing that was out. Funnily enough, I saw that the Oblivion remaster was actually, it was released the same day. I was looking forward to that when I saw it was announced. And then Expedition was like, okay, this is the same day. I'm going to give that a try too. And then Expedition just kind of took over and became the favorite. So, uh, RPGs are kind of like a new thing for me, or I guess not so new at this point because I played Breath of the Wild, I guess, a good number of years ago at this point. But you know, RPGs I've grown to love them, and Expedition is just another one added to that list. That's pretty close to the top for me now.
All right, pretty cool. So you've gone ahead and beaten the game already and achieved many of the trophies, I'm assuming,
Oh
for
yeah,
it.
platinumed a lot of the RPGs, like Platinum The Witcher, platinumed, Expedition, a lot of them.
Yes, which is pretty impressive. I've yet to platinum a game myself. So with that much experience with Expedition 33, tell me, what are some things about the game that you really enjoyed?
Of course, main thing being the story. The story is very immersive, voice acting great, A lot of great characters. Characters are a really big driver for me when I'm enjoying just like any piece of media, when I'm watching a show or playing a game. You have to have really good characters, and this game excels very strongly with its characters. Um, Gameplay wise, it's turn-based combat, but it's turn-based that doesn't feel very turn-based, if that makes sense. It's kind of like interactive turn-based. It's kind of similar to another turn-based game that I played, Paper Mario, very popular. Uh, it kind of reminds me of that, where you kind of have like action commands in Paper Mario where you can like block as it attacks coming your way. In this case, you have like the parry system where in real time, if an attack coming your way, you can time it, parry it, or dodge it. And then if you like time all of your parries correctly, you can parry with like this group super attack. So it's a very interactive turn-based game. I like the freshness of it. I like the feel of it kind of being like a real life Final Fantasy in a way. And Final Fantasy is another series I've gotten into more recently. So yeah, I kind of just like everything about the aesthetic, the feel, and of course the story, like I said. So
All right, awesome. So sounds like there's a lot to enjoy about Expedition 33. But as we know, no game is perfect. So what are some things that you didn't like about the game or feel like they could be improved in a potential sequel? As I hear there might be more games in this franchise.
yes, the opening. So we'll see what they do. Definitely looking forward to see what Sandful has next. Um, I feel like it's probably a popular criticism now that I think about it, but the biggest thing is definitely when you get to the third act, if it's a spoiler warning, maybe not a big spoiler, but you can definitely feel overpowered when you are in that area. There's a lot of like things that open up in the world, and you're kind of tempted to want to explore and do all the things in the world. There's like a really crazy powerful super boss that you could do instead of doing the final boss. And in my case, I went to do the super boss first because I was just so tempted to do it. By the time I made it to the actual final boss of the game, I kind of just like one shot it and it was like, oh, it's over. So it is kind of a hard balance to strike of the third act. How do you go into it while making the final boss still feel like a challenge, but also, you want to give the player freedom in the end. It's not an easy thing to do, so they definitely could have improved on that. Um, yeah, I feel like that's one of the big things. The act three, even story wise, there's some improvements that could be made. Um, it's a very drastic change in the story compared to like the first two acts. It's like, oh, this is very jarring. Everything is not what I expected it to be, but that is kind of the point intentionally too. So, and there's also multiple endings. So, uh, if you have the right ending, I have a favorite ending, but I won't spoil it. So, I just know one ending is better than the other. The people they'll know.
Okay. All right. So how does Expedition compare to some of your other favorite games? We consider this one of your favorite games you've ever played, or one of the top games you've played?
Definitely one of the best RPGs I've played for sure. Definitely turn-based. Um, Among all games, I definitely say so. Like I said, I'm still kind of expanding my horizons. I've definitely expanded more for a few years at this point. I mean, I got into the Souls games. Elden Ring's great. Got into Souls like Lies of P, great game. Sekiro is another Souls game. Uh, but this game, I definitely feel like it's up there. Uh, if I were to put it in like a top 10, probably toward the bottom of my top 10, but I have a lot of games that I like, so that's saying a lot for it to even be like already thinking of it being a top 10 material game. So this game is really well made.
Awesome. And I remember we were keeping tabs on the Game Awards. This was your pick the for the game that would win Game of the Year. So tell me, how do you feel about that decision?
I feel great. I feel great that it won. It should have won. It swept and it deserved the sweep. Not, I'm not sorry, that it swept. Anybody that's mad that it swept, I'm sorry, but sometimes the sweep is inevitable, and sometimes, uh, the best thing wins. You know, I know some people are just kind of like, well, you can just give some awards to some other people, but no, I'm good. I don't need a participation trophy. Just, give it to the correct winner. And, you know, I definitely am happy that it won. It's definitely game of the year. But I mean, in all seriousness, if I'm being more generous, there are some things that it probably didn't need to win. So did the sweep need to be as aggressive? Probably not. There's definitely some things I could see, like uh, it could have been in like art design. Um, they definitely could have like in nominations. You could have removed one of the three nominations for the best performance. Although all the performances were great, so it is hard. But you could have left it to two. Uh, yeah, there's definitely some awards that it didn't need to win, but at the same time, it's like I'm not mad that it swept either. It was definitely a great experience for me, and above all else, it definitely needed to win Game of the Year. So if it didn't win that, that would have been unacceptable.
I mean, I would have been okay with Donkey Kong Bonanza winning, but
I mean,
I do agree with with the game winning, especially its impact. And honestly, having a different game be the Sweep King that isn't The Last of Us Part Two.
ah, yes, thank God it's not The Last of Us Part Two.
But that's a whole other rabbit hole. But final question for you um, is would you recommend Expedition 33 for others to play, and to who would you recommend it to, and why?
Simple answer, yes. Definitely anybody that's interested in playing a game, this is definitely the one to do. If you like turn-based, this is a definite yes. But even if you're not turn-based, I would still say, like I said, the parry mechanic system, the dodging, it feels a lot more interactive. Once you're in it, and the story will get you. So just if you like video games, it's worth a try. There are a lot of people who were haters at first, deniers, and then after playing through that first act, they're hooked, and now they became they became fans. So I recommend it to anybody who likes playing video games. And if you like turn-based games, definitely you probably already played it at this point, but still play it as well anyway. So
All right. Well, that's all the questions we have. Thank you for joining us and giving us your take on Expedition 33.
thanks for having me.
So, why did Expedition 33 win Game of the Year, and what is its impact on the industry? Well, it kind of reminds me, like I said before, about Astrobots 1 in 2024. If you remember, 2024 was a year of live service catastrophes, aka Concord, and Astrobot, which is a simple platformer, a budget platformer that didn't really get a lot of support or notice, but in a world where basically live service games were failing, all these companies were focusing on the live service games and really forgetting about, the fun of games, that a budget platformer like Astrobot was able to sweep in and remind people that you don't have to go for the big money makers, the live service games, and things like that. That a 3D platformer made well, actually made amazingly well. Mechanics um, were done well, but also showcased, literally celebrating a history of PlayStation and all their IPs and everything, was impactful enough to, not just win the awards it did, but win Game of the Year and show that, any game, no matter the budget, can actually do it, you know. And I said that this should show the industry basically that you shouldn't always striving for these extremely high monetary making games because sometimes just something basic and simple is all it really takes, you know? And with Expedition 33, it's very similar, right? Expedition 33 wasn't some AAA game from a well known studio. No, Expedition 33 was a independent game, a game made from a relatively unknown studio. This was their first game ever, and it won Game of the Year. And most indie games usually come from smart studios with smaller budgets. You can definitely tell that the studio put in a lot of time, effort in order to make a game as great as Expedition, right? But I think the biggest thing is that it reminds the industry that creativity still exists. You don't have to play it safe with the same franchises, the same mechanics, and things like that. All these games are trying to be live action, not live action, trying to be action adventure. Final Fantasy is trying to switch to becoming action based, and Action 33 is turn based. Now it's not like fully traditional turn based, but it's a very unique style of turn based that really works with the world and its story. Basically, we're entering a time where because third parties, sorry, AAA developers are so money focused, live service focused, that basically they're forgetting about fun and creativity, right? They don't want to take risks because if that risk doesn't pay off, they're not going to make the billions of dollars they could potentially make. Now, I'm not saying that these industries need to be like Concord and follow a trend that is no longer as strong as it used to be and spend $400 million. But, there's a reason why this recent Call of Duty isn't hitting, right? The creativity isn't there. It's the same stuff over and over. And that is the wake up call that this game industry needs. I'm not to be pessimistic, but I am definitely predicting that AAA gaming is not going to sustain itself as it is if they keep following the same trends, the same safe plans. And if anything, Expedition shows that this is truly an era for independent gaming. You know, for all those independent game developers out there who have a genuine idea, something unique, even if it's a play off of a mechanic that already works. This Expedition 33 should show you that it's worth it to take that chance on that idea. No matter how long it takes, even if you have to work a full time job and just work on it, we have free time on the weekend, get to a point where we can crowdfund it. You know, the gaming industry needs more games like Expedition 33, and it needs more creative minds to sustain itself. And that is the impact that Expedition 33 will have on the gaming industry going forward. And I genuinely hope that we get more games like it, that third parties, AAA developers, um, they get the wake up call finally and genuinely make good games that their fans are going to enjoy and just stop chasing the money. Games are supposed to be fun. If you make fun games, you'll get the players and they'll give you the money naturally. Thanks for tuning in into today's episode. Next episode, we will be discussing the best and worst of gaming from 2025. And with that, gamers, continue striving to be the very best.